Resourceful Designer, episode 263, The Secret to a Happy and Satisfying Design Career.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He can never remember which screwdriver is the Phillips and which is the Robertson. Mark Dacote.
Yeah, I've tried over and over to think up clever ways to remember which is which, but I'm never 100% sure. So I just usually call them the square head and the star head screwdrivers, even though I know one of them's not actually a star. Anyway, in this week's episode, I'm going to share the secret to happiness as a designer. And I'll give you a hint, it all boils down to 4 words. And be sure to stick around after that conversation when I'll share a resource of the week that I truly believe not just designers, but everyone with a computer should have. Now, before I get to today's topic, I just want to acknowledge all the supportive messages I received after my father's passing. They really meant a lot to me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And now, the secret to a happy and satisfying design career. Okay, let's face it. It's impossible to be completely happy and satisfied with whatever career choice you choose. I mean, even being a professional chocolate taster has its drawbacks. But out of the gazillion of different things that you can do with your life, being a graphic or web designer, at least in my opinion, is one of the most satisfying options out there. Then again, I may be a bit biased. But just like every other career choice, being a designer has its ups and its downs. You get to make money using your creativity. You get to design things that change people's lives. Your creations are displayed for everyone to see and admire. But there's a flip side. Clients don't always have the same vision as you. Some people are demanding to work with. And don't get me started on taxes and all the administrative work involved with being a designer. As I said, ups and downs. Luckily, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, the life of a designer is filled with way more ups than there are downs. And that's what keeps us going. But what if I told you that you can increase the number of ups you experience? What if I told you there's a very simple secret that if you follow, you will have an even happier and a more satisfying career as a designer, whether it's a graphic designer, web designer, or any path within the design industry. And it all boils down to 4 words. But hold on, before I tell you those 4 words, I want to share a scenario with you. Something you've probably experienced yourself at some point in your design career. And if you haven't, just give it time, I'm sure you will. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You're hired to design something for a client. Let's say a logo. So, being the good designer that you are, you hunker down and you get to work sketching out dozens, if not hundreds, of different ideas for the logo. Now, most of these ideas will be dismissed almost as soon as you make them. Some of them you actually know before making them, as you're putting them down, that you're not going to use them. But you just have to do it anyways, just to get that idea out of your head. Or am I the only one that has to do that? After a while, you look at all the different things you've done, and your eyes are drawn back to maybe a handful of ideas that, these ones show merit. So, taking those ideas, you start playing with them and tweaking them and trying different combinations and iterations of them, trying this and trying that, until you either get to the point where you decide that, no, it's just not going to happen with this one, and you ultimately discard it, and other ones where you say, these ones are more promising. And you take those logos, those concepts, and you concentrate all your talent and your design skills on making them just right. And in the end, you're left with maybe 2 or 3 logos that have real potential. Now, taking these, let's say 3 logos, you work them until they're perfect. Then you create a nice presentation, including various mock-ups so you can show your client how each one of these logos could be used in a real-world situation. Now note, if you're not already using mockups when presenting logos to your clients, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Mockups make it so much easier to present to clients. I get all my mockups along with other great templates, photos, vector graphics, and so much more through my subscription to Envato Elements. If you're interested, check it out, resourcefuldesigner.com/Envato Elements. Now getting back to your 3 logos. Even though all 3 ideas are good, you secretly have your favorite from the bunch. You know you do. It's the one that you're already picturing it in your portfolio. The one logo that you just can't wait to show off and let everyone know, hey, I designed this logo. Yeah, you always have your favorite. Then, of course, there's your second favorite. You don't like it as much as the first one, but still, it's a damn nice logo. Not that there's anything wrong with that third logo. After all, you wouldn't present a logo to a client that you didn't think would work, would you? No, I didn't think so. But logo number 3, even though it's good, just doesn't compare to logo number 1 or even to logo number 2. So you get ready, you make your presentation to your client. You may even, during your presentation, try to upsell your favorite logo a bit, talk it up a little bit more so than you do the other 2. There's no harm doing that after all. And then, once the presentation is done, you sit back and you wait for the client's decision. I bet you can guess where I'm going with this. Yep, regardless of your effort and your desires, the client chooses logo number 3. You put on your happy face as you pretend to share in the client's enthusiasm, but in your gut, you feel let down. How could they choose logo number 3? Can't they see how great logo number 1 is? Or even logo number 2? But 3? No. Why would they choose number 3? Now, I'm sure that this exact scenario is why some designers choose to practice a one-concept approach. They don't give their clients different options. Instead, they offer one concept. It's a take-it-or-leave-it scenario. Now, if that's the way that you work, more power to you. But that's not the way that I do things myself. Why did I share this scenario with you? It's because I want you to get into the mindset of how you would feel in that situation. You were so sure that the client was going to fall in love with the same logo that you loved, and they didn't. You feel confused. You feel torn. You feel let down. You feel dejected. Well, remember I told you that the secret to a happy and satisfying design career comes down to 4 words? Well, here they are. It's not about you. It's not. It never was, and it never will be. A happy and satisfied designer knows that everything they do is about the client. When you embrace that concept, your career becomes so much easier. You may have liked logo number 1 better, and that's fine, but that wasn't the client's choice. To them, logo number 3 is the best one. And you know what? They're right. At least, as far as they're concerned, they're right. It's not about what you think, it's about what they think. And the client is more than happy with their decision to choose logo number 3. And therefore, so should you be. After all, they hired you to create something for them, not something for you. Sure, you would be able to use their logo to help promote yourself by showcasing it on your social media channels and putting it out in your portfolio. But other than that, it's not your logo. Once you move on to your next design project, you'll give their logo very little thought from that point forward. The client, on the other hand, is going to embrace and live with your creation for hopefully a very, very long time. So, regardless of your preferences, it was never about you. It was always about the client. Remember that. But it's not about you doesn't only apply to client preferences when it comes to logos. It applies to many aspects of your business. A request for proposal that you submitted gets turned down. Well, whoever you submitted to had their reasons for saying no to you. Maybe you didn't match their criteria. Maybe someone else submitted a better proposal. Maybe the person judging the RFP already had a preference in mind and knew who they were going to go with. Regardless, It's not about you. The decision was theirs. A client turns down your website proposal, stating that the price is just way too high. Did you overprice the project? No, of course not. You priced it where you thought it should be priced. The fact that the client thinks it's too expensive is not about you. It's about them. It's about their expectations. Now, you do have some control over those expectations, the way you present your proposals, the way you explain the value that you bring, the way you show how much of a benefit working with you can be. All of these things can help sway a client's expectations. But ultimately, it's not about you. It's about them. They make the decision that they think is right for them. And even if you feel it's the wrong decision, it's still not about you. It's always about them. And if you remember that it's not about you, it will make these hurdles in your career so much more palatable. As long as you do the best that you can, as long as you present the best options, as long as you are sincere and honest in your dealings with your clients, then the end results will never be about you. You can be satisfied that you've done everything possible. The final decision is in their hands, and therefore, it's all about them. Hopefully, you learn something from this process, that you take note of it, and then put the whole thing behind you and move on. Now, it's not about you applies to smaller things as well. A client doesn't like a suggestion you make. It's not about you. Client doesn't like the colors you choose. It's not about you. The client doesn't like the font you used. It's not about you. The client doesn't like the web feature you added to their site. It's not about you. None of these are about you. And therefore, there's no reason to get upset about them. And even if the client does agree with you, they like your terms, they decide to hire you, the price is right. And even if they love your choices, they love your ideas, the client praises your designs, it's still not about you. You may feel good about it, and you should feel good about that situation. But ultimately, it's still all about the client. It's how they feel dealing with you. And when you learn to embrace this "it's not about you" attitude, and learn to let go of all the little things that may upset you about this career, you will notice that your life as a designer will be much happier and much more satisfying. Your ultimate goal as a designer, a graphic designer, a web designer, a UX designer, whatever type of designer you are, your ultimate goal is to make the client happy. You're there to serve them to the best of your ability. And at the end, it doesn't matter what you think, because it's not about you. It's always about them. And in the end, when your clients are happy with what you do for them, when they come back over and over and over again with more design work for you, when they tell everyone around about the great services you offer, and when they treat you as a trusted partner, well, maybe at that point, it's a little bit about you. Now, speaking about you, you can't do this alone. Running a home-based design business can feel very isolating. The best thing that I ever did for my design career was connect with fellow designers. People I could bounce ideas off of, people I can ask for advice, people who can critique my work, people who I can share my grievances with. And over the years, I've had many peers and many colleagues fill that role for me. But none of them compare to what I've built within the Resourceful Designer community. The people in the Resourceful Designer community are not just peers and colleagues. They've become friends. And let me tell you, it's great having friends who understand what we do on a day-to-day basis, because they're like-minded people who get us. And that's something every designer needs. And those of us in the Resourceful Designer community would love if you were a part of it. Please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/community and become a member today. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, this week's Resource of the Week is something that I think not just designers, but everybody with a computer should have. Now, there are not many tools on my must-have list. Even Divi, that I am always talking about, my ultimate choice for building WordPress websites, isn't a must-have tool. But one thing everyone with a computer should have is a backup strategy, a way to safeguard all those precious files you have. And an extra hard drive is not enough. And that's why I believe that no backup strategy is complete without Backblaze. Backblaze is a cloud-based backup solution that gives you peace of mind, knowing that all your precious files are safe and secure, regardless of whatever happens to your computer. Now, you may be thinking, well, I don't need Backblaze, I already have Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive. Well, let me tell you that those platforms were never meant to be a backup solution. They're great for file storage and for file sharing, but they're not made for backup. For a true cloud backup solution, you need something that was built just for that purpose, and that's Backblaze. I've had Backblaze installed on every computer I've owned for the past decade or so, and it was well worth the low yearly costs of the service. Speaking of cost, if you're listening to this shortly after I release this episode, now's your chance to grab Backblaze before they raise their price on August 16th, 2021. You can lock in at the current price for 2 years. And even if you're already a Backblaze subscriber, you can renew your subscription for another year at the low price before they raise it on August 16th. So to learn more or to renew or subscribe to Backblaze, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Backblaze. You won't be sorry. Well, that's it for me. It was really nice to get back behind the mic again. I sure miss this. I miss talking to you. But now it's time for me to get back to work. So until next time, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best with your design business and encouraging you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.